bless everyone and always love the children. Amen.
The Charlie Kirk Show starts now.
It seems to be some smoke is rising. I don't know if these are smoke bombs. It was peaceful when we began to talk, and we noted that rhetoric really matters now.
It's insulting to hear this governor make it seem like, this is the wild, wild west, and this is what they want to be doing. This is not what they want to be doing. They are literally enforcing the laws. My piece of advice to anyone in Minneapolis, and frankly anywhere in the country, let the law enforcement do their job.
I would like to address the chaotic scenes in Minnesota over the weekend. Nobody in the White House, including President Trump, wants to see people getting hurt or killed in America's streets. This includes Renee Good, Alex Preddy, the brave men and women of federal law enforcement, and the many Americans who have been victimized at the hands of illegal alien criminals. But let's be clear about the circumstances which led to that moment on Saturday. This tragedy occurred as a result of a deliberate and hostile resistance by Democrat leaders in Minnesota. Governor Walz and Mayor Frey have shamefully blocked local and state police from cooperating with ICE, actively inhibiting efforts to arrest violent criminals. They have also used their platforms to encourage left-wing agitators to stalk, record, confront, and obstruct federal officers who are just trying to lawfully perform their duties.
Good afternoon. To Americans who are watching this right now, I've got a question for all of you. What side do you want to be on? The side of an all-powerful federal government that can kill, injure, menace, and kidnap its citizens off the streets? Or on the side of a nurse at the VA hospital who died bearing witness to such government? Or the side of a mother whose last words were, "I'm not mad at you"? The side of tens of thousands of peaceful citizens.
Stand with Minneapolis. Stand up for America. Recognize that your children will ask you what side you were on. Your grandchildren will ask you what you did to act to prevent this from happening again. What did you do to protect your city? What did you do to protect your nation?
Minnesotans, you've won the hearts and minds of people across this country, and you've done it through your peaceful defense of your neighbors and the Constitution. But this fight still goes on.
Amid the hysteria, we must remember how we got here to this moment today and what this Democrat opposition is about. Former President Joe Biden and the Democrats opened America's borders for 4 years, inviting tens of millions of illegal aliens from all over the world to flood into our country. Among them, violent criminals who terrorized American communities and have inflicted devastating, permanent pain and harm on law-abiding Americans and their families. Yet we never saw outrage from Democrats or their allies in the liberal media over these horrifying crimes against U.S. citizens. The pain of American angel families was ignored and dismissed because it undermined the Democrat narrative.
This is not a partisan issue. This is an American issue. This administration and everyone involved in this operation should be reflecting. They should be reflecting right now and asking themselves, what exactly are you accomplishing? If the goal was to achieve peace and safety, this is doing exactly the opposite. If the goal was to achieve calm and prosperity, this is doing exactly the opposite.
You're allowed to decide at any point that you're not with this anymore. I ask you not to stand by idly. Speak out, share what you're seeing, urge others to put politics aside. We're no longer having a political debate, we're having a moral debate.
President Trump promised accountability by securing the border, deporting every illegal alien who has committed crimes, especially and most importantly, violent crimes. Nearly 80 million Americans voted for him to deliver on that very promise, and he is. As the duly elected president, the president is fulfilling the will of the people by arresting and removing the these threats from our country in cities from Los Angeles to New York and, yes, Minneapolis.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
Every day, there's a battle for your mind raging. Information coming from every angle with the will to deceive. Fear not. You found the place for truth. The voice of a generation that still has the will to believe in the greatest country in the history of the world. This is the Charlie Kirk Show. Buckle up. Here we go.
All right, welcome to the Charlie Kirk Show. It is January 27th, 2026. We are here in the Phoenix studio. Myself, Andrew Kolvet, at the Bitcoin.com studio, your one place to buy, sell, and trade Bitcoin. Check them out today. Glad to have them back. Blake, we are in Phoenix today. Welcome. Lots to get to.
The Bitcoin.com city of Phoenix.
The Bitcoin.com city. We love those guys, honestly. Great people. The big news of the day is this Bovino story. We got to get into it. So, Blake, why don't you set up the backdrop for this, and then we'll get into what we know. We've been calling people, trying to get the inside scoop.
Well, so Bovino is he's kind of been the point man for a lot of the drama that's been unfolding with ICE in Minnesota. It's almost worth reminding people the full arc of how we got here, which is last fall. Well, okay, the full arc of how we got here.
How far back do we want to go?
1964.
Well,
during the last glacial maximum, the glaciers created a bunch of lakes in Minnesota, thus making it a pleasant place for people to live. And so it resembled Finland and Sweden. And so a bunch of Finns and Swedes moved to Minnesota, and they made a great state, and it was very pleasant, but it was kind of progressive. It was a little left-wing, and they have a do-gooder impulse to them.
And a bunch of Somalis moved
A lot of people moved there, including, many Somalis. They built a big welfare state that has started to go a little bit awry, much like the one in Sweden. And so it was not really a coincidence that George Floyd unfolded in Minneapolis. That would not have unfolded the way it did if it had happened in Atlanta, in Texas, in other states. It kind of had to happen in Minnesota. And since then, we've been repeatedly going back there. So that's the whole setup. Anyway, this past fall, we had that drama with people notice the Somali fraud stuff, which has been going on for years, and in fact, been getting prosecuted and covered for years.
We were early on this, by the way.
But we were Feeding Our Future was going on in 21 and 22. And then you remember when we had Kramu on and he said, all these, there's a giant autism scam going on in Minnesota, all this fraud. And then lo and behold, that was blown up. So we had, Chris Rufo was covering it. And then, of course, Nick Shirley was covering it as well. Just the realization,
that caused this surge.
Huge surge of attention on it, of what fraud is going on. And so then ICE, which has been pursuing its immigration activities, they sort of seized on this. Let's do a surge in Minnesota. It's a good symbol of how serious we are on finding fraudsters, finding criminals, and deporting them. And so we have the surge there, and Bovino, as you said, he's kind of the on-the-ground symbolic leader of this.
He's almost like the mascot of Border Patrol, which is distinct from ICE, which is an important distinction. So, typically Bovino would not be up in Minneapolis, right? So he was brought there as a part of this surge to oversee it. He is this kind of folk hero among a lot of the Border Patrol. We've got some images of Greg Bovino. He's a total patriot, by the way. Total patriot. But things have gone awry, and there is infighting within some of the ranks of ICE, Border Patrol. Even there's differing opinions at the administration. But here's what I can tell you is that everybody's committed to the president's immigration agenda. That's what I have ascertained. I've been calling around, asking my sources up there. Everybody's committed to it. But there is a difference of tactics, of messaging, of presentation.
Yeah, and it's just funny how symbolic it is, because I believe he's commander of the Border Patrol, and so it is a little funny that he was there. But what he was is he had that bravado of, oh, we're here, we're tough. He's like parading around in public to show that, frankly, that he's not afraid of all the ICE people or the anti-ICE protesters, which is a big deal because people have openly fantasized about wanting this guy shot. They've openly fantasized. I think someone even put out a hit on him, I believe.
Yeah, his family is in hiding.
Yes.
Just so you're aware.
This guy is a very brave man, and he put himself out there for the agenda, but he also, as a result, became symbolic of the difficulties that happened in Minneapolis, which, unfortunately, we've had 2 shootings. We've had a lot of chaos in the city, mostly driven by the left, of course.
Well, and the new one, Preddy, is, I think, where we're getting a lot of this consternation. Because, listen, I will defend ICE all day long. As a matter of fact, I'm going to continue to, because I think they're amazing heroes. But there are some ICE agents and Border Patrol that feel like we need a new approach. We need to hit the reset button in Minneapolis. You see Tom Homan, who's been on this show many times. We love Tom. I think it's a great move. Great, mix it up. But Bovino has now, so there was some confusion yesterday. Bovino gets relieved of duty. Did he get fired? Is he
transferred?
Now transferred. So and then his social media was shut down. He was mixing it up on social media with some lawmakers who were overreacting. By the way, again, I basically agree with everything Bovino was saying. He's absolutely right to have our ICE agents back, to have Border Patrols back. But some of the details, I think, were misplaced. I think some of the initial reaction was based on faulty information about the altercation with Preddy. And so there's movement happening, right? But he's not been fired. And essentially what happened was Bovino was put on ice for a second. President Trump
put on ice?
Yeah, well, he was put on ice. I didn't even mean to do that. President Trump says this guy's a hero. He's a patriot. He's on the team. We're keeping him on his post. And so he's on his post. But Homan's coming in. He's gonna shake things up. Why I like this, and I will tell you, Bovino's an actual operator, right? He's less of the policy wonk guy, less of the architect of it, but he is an absolute architect. He's a real tough guy. Bovino's a tough guy too, but Tom Homan, absolute field general. He's now in the field, meeting with people. And what we've seen, and I think the internet's got this all wrong. A lot of people were saying President Trump blinked. He had this call with Fry. He had a call with Waltz. What they're doing is a huge, huge deal. We are now seeing Minneapolis PD rush in to defend federal law enforcement. That's a big change. That's a positive change after the calls with the president. So we're seeing movement here. We're seeing a little give and take. I do not see anybody saying we're not going to arrest all the illegals. Nobody's saying that. You do see a little bit of a worse first messaging. Now, as long as that's just the messaging, I'm okay with it. And Blake, before we came in to the show today, you were making, I thought, a really amazing point. And sometimes I wish you guys could see all of our pre-show discussion. But you were basically saying competence is what matters. It's not even, okay, message how you're going to message, but we need competence. And we need to stop being as performative for social media. We just need to get the job done. Expound on that point, if you can.
Well, so a lot of the drama that's been happening with ICE is, I think it's downstream of things the administration has done to show that they're serious, and we want them to be serious. But what I think Bovino became a symbol of is like performative stuff. And some of this is stuff I've heard people complain about. Like, for lack of a better term, some stuff they'll do, it's almost like it's intended to look a little cruel or callous. And I think it is important to be dead serious. And it's obviously great when they're saying, oh, this person we arrested was a rapist. This person we arrested was a criminal. You definitely communicate that seriousness. But sometimes it does go a little bit beyond that. And that's what ends up like bothering a lot of people. Now, you can't allow those people to say, oh, so we're going to suspend deportations now. Oh, we're going to pull ICE back. Oh, deportations are canceled because this made me feel bad. You don't give in on that point. But you do have to be smart about things. And I think the way President Trump is reacting to this is telling, because I think some people really wanted to do a bigger pullback. I think some people probably wanted Greg Bovino to just be fired and cast aside, say this whole thing was bad. And I think the president's instincts are, no, we can swap out personnel, but if I start firing people or really signaling a pullback, it's going to set off this cascade of weakness. Yeah. Whereas with sending in Tom Homan is a longtime professional. He's pretty good at disciplined messaging on this. And I think he can say, we'll have Homan running this operation, and he can communicate what our agenda is, that we're focused, that most of the people we're getting are criminals, that he can sort of reset the tone of what's going on without pulling back too decisively. Right.
And we got to get into this as well. I mean, you've had all this thousands of new recruits. There's a lot to unpack here, and the 2 angle. We'll be right back.
At Real America's Voice, we know that you want to be a part of something bigger. That's why we've teamed up with AMAC, the Association of Mature American Citizens, to build a real community of folks who care about faith and our country's future.
There is no force on earth that can stop us from saving our country.
Want to be a part of this movement? It's easy. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now. That's right. Grab your phone and scan the QR code to join the AMAC and Real America's Voice family today. By scanning the QR code, you'll unlock exclusive content, connect with like-minded Americans, and be first in line for events that celebrate our shared values. So don't wait. Scan the QR code. Join us today and become part of a community that stands for faith, family, and freedom.
Real rights, they come from God.
With AMAC and Real America's Voice. Go ahead. Scan the QR code now.
Hi, my name is Tracy L. from Arizona. I don't stink around in the kitchen when it comes to the news. I watch Real America's Voice, which always serves accurate and reliable updates that are on point with their amazing hosts. So don't find yourself in a pickle by tuning into the fake news. Stick with Real America's Voice.
This is Rashad from Boston, Massachusetts, and I love Real America's Voice. It is the best place for real news and content. Much love.
It's Stacy from Texas. I watch Real America's Voice because I need to learn, and I know I can get the truth through Rav. God bless everyone, and always love the children. Amen.
Hi, this is Chris from Wisconsin, and I love Real America's Voice because they have great news and a great chat family. God bless all of you.
Welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. I want to tell you guys quickly about our partners over at YRefi. I mentioned this yesterday, but I was there last week, met with a team, amazing company, really devoted staff, and they have these whole call centers. So when you call in, you have your distressed or defaulted private student loan. They have call centers with all of these wonderful people, caring people, smart people. And the stories I heard would just blow you away, really. Some people call them and they're suicidal. They're depressed. They don't know what to do with their future because they're living under this mountain of debt and they can't get ahead on it. And when it's private student loan, there's less options. So if you find yourself in a position where you have private student loan debt and you need help and you can't get ahead of on the payments, call them and they will help you establish a custom loan payment. So they're going to tailor it just for your situation. They'll make sure you can meet your monthly payment. That's 888-YREFI34, YREFY.com. If you cannot make your monthly payment, if you're getting behind, they don't care what your credit score is. They can help you. This is what they do. This is what they're devoted to doing. So if you know somebody that's in a position like this, if your kids are in a position like this, if your parents are still on your loan, they can release the parents from the loan and refinance it. Again, 888-YREFI34. They don't care what your credit score is. They don't care what your financial situation is. They'll even let you skip a payment every 6 months, up to 12 times without penalty. That's YREFI.com. The amazing folks at YREFI. Please, please, please check them out if you find yourself in that position. They really, really care about people. That's why they do what they do. It was amazing to kind of get the inside scoop on that. So check them out. All right. So
we need to talk about Second Amendment.
Second Amendment.
Because this is a thing. It was bubbling up yesterday, and we didn't really touch it too much. But we want to hit it harder today. It's been going back and forth. There's been... we're sort of seeing a reversal of form typically because for years it was you'd have the right would sometimes bring guns to protests, and obviously there was a lot of hysterics and the left is pushing hard for gun control. It's been a little different in Minnesota because some of these Antifa people or just some of the anti-ICE people in general have been armed. And of course, Alex Preddy was armed as well, and that seems to have unfortunately caused his death. And so there's been a few lines that have been used. One of them was from FBI Director Kash Patel. He said this on Sunday. We'll use that as setup. Let's play clip 281.
As Christy said, you cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest that you want. It's that simple. You don't have that right to break the law and incite violence.
And similarly, DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, she also said on Saturday, I don't know of any peaceful protester who shows up with a gun and ammunition rather than a sign. And there was some context to that, but she was basically, that's what gets clipped. And we've seen that a few different times from a few different people. And first of all, we have to warn everyone that no, you do have the right to bring a gun to a protest. Many conservatives have done that. And it would be a huge mistake if we suddenly reversed course on that, because the left would be overjoyed to team up with us to say, oh, you actually can't bring guns to protests. And then we would permanently forfeit a Second Amendment right over a temporary issue. But we do have to make sure our messaging on this is good. It is correct. And what some people have emailed us in, some people have commented, they've said, oh, well, for example, they've said you're legally required to tell an officer if you're armed or all of that. You're actually not. I looked this up. In Minnesota, you're required to tell an officer if they ask. And that is the most common law in most of the U.S. is if a police officer asks whether you have a weapon, you have to tell them. But only in a few are you affirmatively required to just disclose this information if interacting with an officer. But what our messaging should instead, I think, need to be is this is basically actually about gun safety, be like responsible gun ownership. And if you take a firearms class, they're basically going to tell you, you can't have ego while carrying a gun. This is a dangerous item, and you have to use it responsibly. You are carrying something that if you screw up, it can get you killed, it can get other people killed. And that's really the tragedy of what happened over the weekend in this ICE shooting, is that he was getting he'd gone to a protest, and then not only that, ended up in a situation where bad stuff could happen. And if you're carrying a gun around a bunch of officers while people are blowing whistles and people are getting shoved, people are getting dragged around, everyone's getting screamed at, the officers themselves are worried someone is going to pull a gun and attack them, and you're carrying a gun and approaching them, it has to enter your thought. There are a lot of ways that this could go wrong.
Yeah, and I just want to make one thing clear. I completely agree with every point you just made. Preddy was not at a protest. There was no protest when he was shot. The protest arrived after he was shot. He was involved in an organized, direct action to impede federal law enforcement. So let's just get that very, very clear. Do I think this was a good shooting? Candidly, probably not. Okay. But to Blake's point, when you take a firearm into public, you are taking a responsibility. I made this point yesterday. This is why if you have a firearm in your car and you get pulled over, you turn the car off, you take the keys, you put them on the dash, hands at 10 and 2 where they can see them. The officer approaches your window and you say, "Officer, I have a firearm in this vehicle." And the officer goes, instantly knows he's working with a responsible individual, okay?
Yeah. When you don't do this because you're legally required to do this. You do this because you're not a moron and you don't want to die and you don't want anyone else to die.
And you don't want the cop freaking out. People have to understand something. Law enforcement are involved in very risky operations. They are pulling over and apprehending traffickers, drug traffickers, cartel members. Some of these are literally have been convicted of homicide. These are high risk, high tension situations. And then they got all these yahoos going around them with bells and blowing whistles, shouting profanity, spitting at them, throwing ice blocks at them. And they're supposed to do their job as if they're cool, calm, and collected, cool as a cucumber. You are expecting too much. So when you go there and you nitpick about the way that they do things, listen, I got news for you. You put yourself into a position where you have to go arrest bad guys and see how well you perform under fire. Okay? When the tension is high, bad things happen. The dumbest thing you can then do is be like Preddy and go into that situation, make it even more difficult. Throw up this image of Kyle Rittenhouse. These are the comparisons that are happening. They're saying Kyle Rittenhouse was carrying in public. There is this image of him approaching law enforcement, hands up. Do you see that? He's approaching law enforcement. He's putting his hands where the police officers can see them, saying, "I'm not a threat to you. Officers, I need your help. I'm not a threat." Because he was coming in respect because he was not their enemy. Preddy, unfortunately, I wish he was alive today, but he unfortunately was coming at law enforcement and resisting them, trying to impede them, signaling that he was their enemy, that he was against their actions, and bad things happen, okay? This is very, very simple. When you are a firearm owner, and if you take that into public, the responsibility is on you to make sure law enforcement knows that you are not a threat to their lives. They want to go home to their families, too. Representative Chip Roy joins us next.
Minnesota's headlines are getting wild. Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar are being accused of massive fraud, and it's so bad, all you can do is laugh at this point. So from Real America's Music, the label that brought you the #1 hit, Anthem of the Free, comes a brand new song from singer-songwriter Natasha Owens, The Somali Waltz. Let's make the music industry mad and run this to #1. Scan the QR code or search The Somali Waltz on iTunes and buy it right now. The Somali Waltz, available everywhere. Patriots, it's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
We got some Rav fans out here.
We watch you every day.
From mugs that start your morning strong to hoodies, hats, t-shirts, pants, vests, flags, and so much more.
Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, that caught my eye big time.
Every piece lets you wear your pride loud and clear. This isn't just merch, it's a movement. When you shop Rav, you're showing the world you're proud to be part of the Real America's Voice family.
God bless Real America's Voice.
So don't wait. Scan the QR code right now or visit realamericasvoice.launchcart.store to shop today.
Thank you, Real America's Voice, for doing true journalism.
Stand tall, be bold, be proud. Represent your voice with Real America's Voice.
It's good to have a real news network out there, so I'm a big fan.
Use code RAVSWAG10 for 10% off.
Real America's Voice rocks.
you Ravagers. I'm Billy Howell, your old buddy Carefree Largo from the chat, and I'm thrilled to be part of the Rav family. When I want to be heard, I use my Real America's Voice.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
This is Giselle Chaffin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that Rav News is the best news. Number one news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
To this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. President Trump is leaving the White House headed to Iowa. This is him talking to reporters.
Respected president of Syria and all of the things having to do with Syria and that area working out very, very well. So we're very happy about it. Tom Homan, as you know, is in Minnesota now. He's meeting with the governor and he's meeting with the mayor, I think, later. And I hear that's all going very well also. I'm going to Iowa. Some of you are coming with me, but I'm going to Iowa. And what can I say? The economy is good. It's all good. Prices are coming way down. And we have a lot of very positive news. Was justified? Well, you know, we're doing a big investigation. I want to see the investigation. I'm going to be watching over it. I want a very honorable and honest investigation. I have to see it myself.
Is Kristi Noem going to step down?
No.
The president of Venezuela said that he has not taken orders from you. What do you want to say about that?
Well, I don't know exactly what's going on there, but I haven't heard that at all. No, we have a very good relationship.
What about
I'd like to see interest rates go down. Everything else is going down. We have the energy and fuel going down. We have gasoline in many states now at $1.99. Groceries are going down. We inherited a mess with very, very high prices, very, very high prices. And I will tell you, we've made a lot of progress. So we have the groceries going down. We have the energy going down. We have gasoline going down at a record clip. And that's what I want to do. We're doing well. Well, I'm looking at that whole situation. I love everybody. I love all of our people. I love his family. And it's a very sad situation. Yeah, please. I am, yeah. I think she's doing a very good job. The border is totally secure. You know, you forget. We had a border that I inherited where millions of people were coming through. Now we have a border where no one is coming through. They come into our country only legally. So you have to remember those things. You know, people forget as soon as you accomplish something, it goes into history, and nobody ever wants to talk about it. We had a border that caused all of this problem. Biden caused, and the Democrats caused this problem. They allowed tens of millions of people to come in. Many of them were murderers. Many were drug dealers, drug addicts, people from mental institutions. They allowed these people to violate our country, to come into our country. And that's what we're talking about. So if you remember, we had a horrible border, the worst border we've ever had, ever in history. People were flowing through by, we think, 25 million people, not to mention drugs and everything else. And that border is absolutely closed. Well, prices are coming down. The border is really strong. You know, if you remember, I probably got elected more than anything else on the border. We had a border that was open with 25 million people coming through with an open border policy, which was insane. And that's the policy that caused the problem that we have. With all of that being said, other than, I would say, just to put it accurately, Minnesota, and in particular Minneapolis, because it's not all of Minnesota, every city that we've gone to has been, like, literally crime has gone down 50, 60, 70, 80. In Washington, it's gone down to practically no crime. Washington is a great example, but you take a look at other cities, Memphis, Tennessee, the crime is down 78%. And you know where else it's down? It's down in Minnesota. It's down in Minneapolis, and it's down very much because of the fact that we're there. So we can't lose sight of the fact that we have to take murderers and drug lords and people from mental institutions that were dumped into our country through open borders of the Democrats, of Biden, and we're doing a great job. The other thing is that Tom Homan is there right now. He's with the governor and he's with the mayor, and I hear things are going very nice. We're looking at some very good things happening on Ukraine and Russia. Very good things are happening on Ukraine and Russia. Where do we stand on Gaza, Mr. President? I think Gaza is going very well. As you know, we got the last hostage down in the body of the hostage. A lot of people thought that was impossible. We got all of the hostages back, both living and dead. And I can tell you, your parents can really appreciate it. What about the
Listening to President Trump speaking to reporters just moments ago before boarding Marine One and heading on to Joint Base Andrews before he's going to board Air Force One and then head on over to Iowa. The president will be speaking in Iowa this afternoon. Stay tuned to Real America's Voice for the very latest. We, of course, will also be carrying President Trump's speech in Iowa live here on Real America's Voice. So keep it right here so that you can watch his remarks. That's going to do it for us here on Real America's Voice. We're going to get you back to your regularly scheduled programming now.
ICE detainers by transferring convicted criminal aliens, so not those with a detention request or those under investigation, but after they serve their sentence, but his city and county jails do not. I'm told that is by far the lion's share, maybe 80% of the criminal legal population in the state of Minnesota. And that doesn't even get to the fact of, unraveling some of the Somali fraud. So explain that again in Texas context, because you guys have crappy cities in Texas, too. No offense. You got Austin, you got Houston, Dallas. I can only imagine those cities are not as cooperative as they should be. What powers does Governor Abbott, for example, have that Governor Tim Walz doesn't? One final point here, Congressman. In Florida in 2022, they passed a law that gives Governor DeSantis complete authority to mandate cooperation with ICE. Is that the way it is in Texas?
Yeah, well, the state legislature, they enacted reforms, I think, in the last two legislative sessions, particularly in the last one, that gives far greater authority for the state government to be able to withhold funds and to be able to put pressure on the local jurisdictions if they refuse to follow the law and if they are sanctuary cities, right? And so that is an important and key element that the state is taking into its leadership, and something I think we need to go even further with, by the way. I think a separate issue not involving this topic.
Agree.
dealing with all of the criminals being let out on the streets by Soros-funded DAs, the wide open borders, the ridiculousness of the Islamification of Texas, Epic City. We can have another podcast all about those things, but we've got to be more aggressive to say that in the state of Texas, we enforce the law, that the state's capital should not be a lawless area that's a sanctuary city, nor should Dallas, nor should Houston. So we've done a lot of that. We can probably go even further, but I think we're in a place where we're in a better posture. Now, if I'm being real and objective, I would tell you that when I talk to boots on the ground, people who are expert on this, we are not doing as well as we could do to have full-throated engagement with our 287G agreements, whether they're in big cities or even some of our smaller towns and counties. We need to be more active, more aggressive to make sure that that is happening so that we can remove people in the state of Texas. So better in Texas, much better than Minnesota, but that's not the bar, right? The bar should be follow the law. And there are 1.5 million people right now under orders of removal by judges. And people forget that. They go, oh, you're just rounding people up. Hold on. There are dangerous criminals that, yes, we're rounding up, but 1.5 million people are under an order of removal by a judge. We should go exercise that, and that is what ICE is doing. And one final point, sorry for the filibuster. Tom Homan is doing an excellent job. I trust Tom, former head of ICE, good friend. The president did a great thing by putting him on the ground and saying, Tom, go get this done the right way. I think he will do it the right way.
So, Congressman, I agree. I think Tom's a national treasure, and we need to wrap him in bubble wrap and keep him safe up there. I will just say, though, I mean, talking to people in the administration, there's a big divide right now, both on messaging and tactics, right? You see this, even Sean Hannity, before we got on with you, I saw this clip from him saying we don't need to be rounding people up at Home Depots. In the admin, there is a two lines of thought: the worst first or get them all, right? So what is your take on that? How do you think we should proceed from a messaging standpoint? I get that there is a flare up here, but if we don't squash it right now, come the summer months, it's going to be worse in Portland and Chicago and New York and Los Angeles. I think we need to move in with heavy force, but I'm open to being wrong. What is your take on that?
Well, let me answer that question after I make an observation first at a higher level. We can't win a war that we do not acknowledge exists.
Yeah.
This is not an immigration issue like it was for our parents' generation or anything else in the 80s or even 20 years ago in the 2000s. This is not some people in Mexico who want to come over and do some work and head back to Mexico peaceably. This is an organized effort to destroy America. Now, I want that to sit out there for a second because, and I don't do this very often, I don't like the people who play I had this conversation with Charlie and I did this thing with Charlie and whatever, and I get it, and Charlie spoke to so many people and affected so many people, but it is true, and on my phone, which I've never shared the screenshots, the last substantive conversation I had with Charlie was about the Islamification of the West, the Islamification of Texas, yes, the Islamification of America, and why that is the most important singular issue and our side doesn't get it. So now take that issue, put it here. Now take the fact that you've got Marxists who want to take our guns away. They want to take our, frankly, freedom of religion away. You saw what they did in St. Paul. They don't care. They want to totally undermine our Western civilization. You've got that going on. You've got all of the funding and all of the dollars flowing from foreign sources, George Soros, Arabella, that you got the Wren Collective putting criminals on the streets. There's all these things. If you did a big, whiteboard, you can map it all out. It's organized to undermine our way of life. If you like Christmas, if you like safety and security, if you like English as a national language, if you like our core culture and are welcoming immigrants who assimilate, but you don't want to have immigrants come here to change our country, if you don't want to be Islamified, if you don't want to have your guns taken away, okay, if you don't want to have censorship about anything you think or say, if you want to live in a state like Europe, that's what's coming. Now, having said all that, if you don't recognize that's the war, then you go back to these tired old phrases Chamber of Commerce Republicans kick around where they go, oh, well, we just got to make sure we're welcoming and we open the door and we do this. And guys, this is a totally different battlescape. So to answer your specific question, I do think there's a little bit of tension going on. There are friends of mine in the administration, and I'm not going to go too far into it because it's their job to go lead on this. But what I'm conveying to them and what I'm conveying publicly is know what time it is in America, lead now, kill this right now before it starts. And you can be like Tom, who is saying, I think you asked your question, is it get rid of the first or get rid of everybody? That's my phrasing, not yours. I would say you can do both. Let's target the worst actors, yes. Let's go get them. Go zero in on those folks. Let's go zero in on the focus with orders of removal. But when you find somebody here who's been here illegally for years and they've stolen Social Security numbers and they've undermined the system and destroyed the rule of law and they've filled up our schools and our jails and birthright citizenship, that all has a cost. And we've got to manage that and we've got to deal with it. You can't pick winners and losers. You've got to enforce the law. That's my 2 cents.
Man, amen. I think we could do both. We absolutely can do both. Right. Congressman, if you have 5 more minutes, I'd love to keep you because I think this Islamification of the West, and you hit on it beautifully. This was one of Charlie's drum beats in the final months of his life, and we have to stay focused on it. I know Steve Bannon and the War Room were just in Texas calling out this very issue. I want to know what it's actually like on the ground. You know, Epic City was a huge, huge story, and I think people really don't fully understand or grasp the extent of that. But you see this huge in Minneapolis. I mean, this is what we've all lost our focus on. This was about Somali fraud, and that's why the surge happened. That's why this big blow up in Minneapolis is even underway now. We'll be right back with Chip Roy.
Minnesota's headlines are getting wild. Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar are being accused of massive fraud, and it's so bad, all you can do is laugh at this point. So from Real America's Music, the label that brought you the #1 hit, Anthem of the Free, comes a brand new song from singer-songwriter Natasha Owens, The Somali Waltz. Let's make the music industry mad and run this to #1. Scan the QR code or search The Somali Waltz on iTunes and buy it right now. The Somali Waltz, available everywhere. Patriots, it's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
We got some Rav fans out here.
We watch you every day.
From mugs that start your morning strong to hoodies, hats, t-shirts, pants, vests, flags, and so much more.
Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, that caught my eye big time.
Every piece lets you wear your pride loud and clear. This isn't just merch, it's a movement. When you shop Rav, you're showing the world you're proud to be part of the Real America's Voice family.
God bless Real America's Voice.
So don't wait. Scan the QR code right now or visit realamericasvoice.launchcart.store to shop today.
Thank you, Real America's Voice, for doing true journalism.
Stand tall, be bold, be proud. Represent your voice with Real America's Voice.
It's good to have a real news network out there, so I'm a big fan.
Use code RAVSWAG10 for 10% off.
Real America's Voice rocks.
All right, we're back with Congressman Chip Roy out of Texas, who I believe is out on the road campaigning. Which I don't even think about Chip Roy campaigning. I just give him the job, guys. All right, Congressman, this is Wall Street Journal opinion this morning. Time for ICE to pause in Minneapolis. This is a real opinion section article by the editorial board at the Wall Street Journal. And my reaction to that is the 2015 GOP is apparently alive and well in certain corners of the I guess conservative world. I don't even know if I consider that. Blake and I were talking before, and it's like if you are even on that side of the fence on this, you're basically a liberal to me at this point. I mean, what you said, we've got to get them all out.
You either want people deported or you don't.
You either want the rule of law.
Every single time you're trying to do it, and your reaction is, "Oh, we got to stop this." Like, you're just a lib.
That's kind of where I'm at. Congressman, you highlighted this issue in the last segment about the Islamification of Texas. I've seen many stats. I don't know which ones are true, but there's 40 new mosques a month or something, there's all, and it is terrifying because if we lose Texas, and I would say Texas seems to me like it has an anemic conservatism. It feels anemic. It's not as strong and robust and full throated as you would expect out of Texas. I'm not sure what that is, but it seems like there's a lot of rhinos in the ranks. Seems like there's a lot of turncoats in the ranks. Explain the truth about the Islamification of Texas, Epic City. The floor is yours.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, first of all, yeah, Texas needs to be much more aggressive than we've been. We've not been as conservative a state as we should have been. Our legislature has been a huge problem. It's trending in the right direction, but not fast enough. We need to be much more aggressive on key issues, including border security, immigration, and the Islamification of Texas. The Islamification issue is very real. There are, just to give you some anecdotes, there are women that I talk to in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex who tell me that there are now increasingly no-go zones in places you wouldn't think. We're talking areas in and around Richardson and Plano and north of Dallas. We're talking about the Arlington area out there in the, between Fort Worth and Dallas where the Cowboys and the Rangers play, right? And there are places where there are women who go, I don't feel safe going there because it's predominantly Muslim, and the natural sort of things occur that make them uncomfortable. And so now you've got Epic City, which has garnered national attention, this, multi-100-acre compound, now rebranding as, quote, the Meadows. You've got an Islamic center in Houston, which is a massive facility being built. But people don't talk about the other things. Right now, north of Austin, I'm pointing because I'm just south of Austin now. On the north side of Austin, there's a new facility going in. At the University of Texas, there is a significant building getting built to be an Islamic center on campus in West Campus at the University of Texas. There are 300 mosques in Texas, and there's more mosques getting built in Texas every single day than any other state in the union. I don't know the exact number to answer your question, but it's a lot more in Texas than any other state. This is a product of business-driven immigration policy. So let's go back to the Wall Street Journal. I've got friends in the Wall Street Journal that I work with on healthcare and other issues that we're in agreement on. But on the issue of immigration, they have been wrong over and over and over again, alongside the Chamber of Commerce, promoting H-1B visas, promoting wide open borders, promoting we need to import talent, instead of standing for what we need to do to make and put America first. The president is right. That is at the core of his brand. The administration needs to stay the course, push back on these business interests, and say, look, let's make sure we've got Americans trained to do the job. We don't need all these H-1Bs that are frankly fronts for pumping people into our country or even leaving them overseas while they're able to, work here in houses that aren't even filled. And by the way, birthright citizenship, we need to fix it. President Wright is right on this. We need to codify it. We need to stop this cottage industry where the Chinese have maybe allegedly up to 1 million people living in China who have American citizenship. I don't know if that's the right number or not. I don't like to peddle random numbers, but that's been pushed out there and alleged. So I've got my staff looking to find how many is it. It's absurd what we've done to sovereignty. It's absurd what we've done to our country. You either believe in American sovereignty or you don't. And one final point. There are 51 million foreign-born people in the United States. That's 16.5% or so of the population. That's the highest percentage we've had in our history. That is greater than it was in 1920 after the massive immigration. And we shut down for 40 years, 4 decades, maybe even 5. That's why I introduced legislation to pause immigration. We need to have a real conversation about this. But my biggest message is to the administration, stay the course. Keep doing it. Stand up for America and put America first.
Man, amen. Congressman, I got 0 notes. I am absolutely in favor of an immigration moratorium. You can make it a net zero. I mean, there's about 200,000 or 300,000 people that leave the country every year. If you want to replace them with good people, I'm open-minded to that. But a net zero immigration moratorium, or just shut it all the way off, I'd be good with that too. I mean, I was at Costco this weekend. I got new tires on my car. A good deal, right? So I go there and I'm wandering around. It did not feel like America to me. It didn't. It just didn't. It was, I mean, I hate to say it.
That's not, guys. That's, look, if I walk into Buc-ee's off this I-35 in Texas, right, a quintessential Texas place, or Costco, like you say, it does not feel like America. Again, I want to be very clear here. We're talking about, people are welcome to come here, but you have to assimilate, right? And that's not what's happening here. People are coming here trying to replace America, trying to push Islamification on America, waving foreign countries' flags. That is not the way this works. They need to be removed.
Well, and I mean, there's whole neighborhoods. I was just talking to another friend in Texas, Congressman, and you know, they said they had to move out of their Dallas suburb because they felt uncomfortable there, and it was basically been completely replaced by Indian immigrants in this instance. And listen, the H-1B scam, I know the administration, that is a statute. You guys need to codify any changes in the H-1B program, but they're slow walking it. I can tell you that. I mean, now you're looking, if you're trying to get H-1Bs, I mean, those things are delayed like a year and a half right now, 2 years. So I hope they keep pushing those things, kicking the can, but there's only so much they can do, right? You got to follow the law at some point. So I hope that law changes. Last minute here, Congressman. Chuck Schumer said he's going to, he's threatening another government shutdown over DHS funding. What can you tell us from the House perspective? And do you think we're going to see a shutdown?
Well, they're certainly rattling about a shutdown. I don't think the administration wants a shutdown. Let's remember that if they don't fund Homeland Security, that means they're not going to fund the Department of War. They're not going to fund Labor H. They're not going to fund transportation. That leaves the FAA unfunded. That leaves the TSA unfunded, right? So there are going to be a lot of issues. I think we should call their bluff. We worked a deal. By the way, it was a bill that I didn't love, but I voted for Homeland Security so I could stand with ICE and Border Patrol, even though there were things in it I didn't like CISA and other stuff. But bottom line is the Freedom Caucus is sending a letter today. It'll go out in the next hour or two that is basically saying, guys, no, you're not going to send us a bill. You're not splitting off Homeland Security. We support the president. We support Tom Homan. We should stay the course. We trust them to get it done right. But at the end of the day, if you want to fix it, then if you're going to block it, we're going to fix it by finding a way to fund things using reconciliation like we did last summer, or, finding a way to stop the fake filibuster, the 6-vote threshold, force a talking filibuster.
I love
That's our position, but we'll have to fight for it.
Hold the line, Congressman. Don't let them blink. We got your back. We'll talk to you soon. Hour 2 coming up.
Minnesota's headlines are getting wild. Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar are being accused of massive fraud, and it's so bad, all you can do is laugh at this point. So from Real America's Music, the label that brought you the #1 hit, Anthem of the Free, comes a brand new song from singer-songwriter Natasha Owens, The Somali Waltz. Let's make the music industry mad and run this to #1. Scan the QR code or search The Somali Waltz on iTunes and buy it right now. The Somali Waltz, available everywhere. It's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
We got some Rav fans out here.
We watch you every day.
From mugs that start your morning strong to hoodies, hats, t-shirts, pants, vests, flags, and so much more.
Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, that caught my eye big time.
Every piece lets you wear your pride loud and clear. This isn't just merch, it's a movement. When you shop Rav, you're showing the world you're proud to be part of the Real America's Voice family.
God bless Real America's Voice.
So don't wait. Scan the QR code right now or visit realamericasvoice.launchcart.store to shop today.
Thank you, Real America's Voice, for doing true journalism.
Stand tall, be bold, be proud. Represent your voice with Real America's Voice.
It's good to have a real news network out there, so I'm a big fan.
Use code RAVSWAG10 for 10% off.
Real America's Voice rocks.
They tried to shut them up.
There's no guarantee to free speech.
They tried to cancel them.
Deplatforming works.
They even threw them in jail.
Peter Navarro,
Steve Bannon,
now in prison.
But they couldn't stop them.
It's not a prison bill that will ever shut me up.
They call them rebels.
Basket of deplorables.
They call them rogues.
They claim to guns or religion.
And they say they're outlaws.
These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
War Room presents Rebels, Rogues, and Outlaws.
You set out to take Vienna. Take Vienna!
the national bestseller by longtime Bannon producer Dan Fluette. Take a journey through the pictorial history of War Room. In a culture that celebrates the weak, show your support by standing with the rebels. Go to doitfluette.com or scan the QR code on your screen. Use the code RAV20 for 20% off your order. Stand with the rebels and never back down.
Back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. President Trump is headed to Iowa right now. The White House says today's trip will kick off weekly travel by the president ahead of this year's midterms. 47 set to deliver remarks about energy, the economy, and affordability during his visit to the Des Moines, Iowa area. Our David Zier is on the ground already preparing for the president's arrival. He joins us live now with the very latest. So it looks like preparations are underway. The president expected to arrive there in the next several hours.
Yes, good afternoon, Terrence. Trump departed the White House a little less than an hour ago. Will be on the ground here, coming to Clive, Iowa, just north of Des Moines. This is his first visit here since July of last year for the America 250 kickoff. And this is part of a broader strategy. He'll be traveling about once a week in support of candidates for the midterms around the country. And Trump won here by 13 points in 2024, the highest ratio in over 50 years, about 52 years. And he'll present today the economy, no tax on tips kick in, overtime, Social Security, child care credits expanded, and the Trump accounts. With there'll be a forum later this week by the Treasury Department to discuss and instruct people how to use those accounts, by the way. But corn and ethanol is a big deal here in Iowa. Congresswoman Marianne Meeks, along with on trying to get E15 approved, 10 to 30 cents cheaper for the American consumer at the gas pump, but also the farmers here and the ethanol producers depend on that. So they're trying to get that reignited in Congress here. And Zach Nunn is in the 3rd district here. And he said, we got to keep this momentum going here and pass his affordable housing bill. And he's going to focus on campus housing affordability for students, possibly who are getting a voucher through Section 8 for college housing costs, and the Rural Housing Act, which will streamline USDA programs for construction and renovations and repairs, especially for low-income people and seniors here. But these races are in contention. There's an open seat for the governor, open seat for the Senate. The first time in about 60 years that's happened, with House Rep Randy Feenstra here running for governor, as Kim Reynolds is not running again for governor, and Representative Ashley Hinton running for U.S. Senate as a Republican in the open Joni Ernst seat. So Trump expected to be here in about 2 hours, an hour and a half or so, and a lot going on the ground in Iowa. Very important because they can only afford to lose 2 more nationwide without giving up their majority in the House, Terrence.
All right, David Zier reporting for us on the ground there in Iowa as he prepares to hear from President Trump. President Trump is already en route to Iowa as we speak, and we, of course, will have live coverage of his remarks there in Iowa the moment it happens. In the meantime, President Trump, no stranger to Iowa. He, of course, has been there many, many times before. The last time he was there was back in July. You may remember he announced the America 250 event there in Iowa. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley also welcoming President Trump to that area with this message.
In 2024, Iowans voted overwhelmingly to return President Trump to the White House to lower costs for families, to secure the border, and to bring down crime. Since then, Republicans have been delivering on those promises. Working alongside Trump, Congress stopped the largest tax increase in American history. Now in the Senate, I want you to know I'm going to continue working with the Trump administration to provide affordable options for Iowans.
And while President Trump is shifting his focus to the economy and affordability today in Iowa, he also has an eye on what's happening in Minnesota. President Trump says that he and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz had a conversation on Monday, and to quote the president, "We actually seem to be on a similar wavelength." 47 followed that call up with a subsequent conversation with Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. Now, the cooler heads seem to be prevailing. President Trump is sending border czar Tom Homan to the Twin Cities. Homan is already on the ground there. That's a quick check of your home.
Minnesota's headlines are getting wild. Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar are being accused of massive fraud, and it's so bad, all you can do is laugh at this point. So from Real America's Music, the label that brought you the #1 hit, Anthem of the Free, comes a brand new song from singer-songwriter Natasha Owens, The Somali Waltz. Let's make the music industry mad and run this to #1. Scan the QR code or search The Somali Waltz on iTunes and buy it right now. The Somali Waltz, available everywhere. Patriots, it's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
We got some Rav fans out here.
We watch you every day.
From mugs that start your morning strong to hoodies, hats, t-shirts, pants, vests, flags, and so much more.
Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, that caught my eye big time.
Every piece lets you wear your pride loud and clear. This isn't just merch, it's a movement. When you shop Rav, you're showing the world you're proud to be part of the
All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Hour 2 is underway. We are joined by Jason Rantz, a Seattle survivor, longtime Seattle resident, and he's got a website, seattlered.com, seattlered.com. Jason, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
You know, we were on a show last night together with Katie Pavlich and News Nation arguing about the virtues of sanctuary cities. And we had what is that guy's name? Chris Hahn, the aggressive progressive. Yeah. And I couldn't hear you half the time because he kept interrupting us. So I was like, Jason, we have to have you back on the show. So explain to us what is going on in Seattle, then relate it to Minnesota. You have been around these communist front groups longer than just about anybody in the country. You see it up close and personal in the Pacific Northwest. How big is this movement? How militarized are they? How organized are they? Explain it for our audience, please, Jason Rantz.
So it is very organized, but it's not nearly as large as it once was. And I was thinking about it this morning for a column I'm doing. I mean, you go back to Black Lives Matter in 2020, and this was right at the start, really, of the pandemic before a lot of people came to their senses, and they were terrified to go outside because we were told not to. And yet there were millions of people nationwide who actually did, in fact, take to the streets. And that was all based on a lie. Cut to what's been going on for the last few months, the organizing has arguably gotten even more favorable press coverage. There's still a lot of misinformation and just flat out lies happening. And yet we're not seeing the same number of people out on the ground. It's the same folks over and over and over again who are showing up. And sure, it's grown a little bit. There's no doubt about that. And not everyone who shows up to these protests are sort of that professional activist class. But the same level of organizing, the same level of strategy is at play. And it's this progressive protest industrial complex where you've got a bunch of folks, in this case, either activists within the community who are part of the organization, or it's Democrat lawmakers, far left lawmakers, who are encouraging you in this case to interfere with ICE operations. Go out there, get in their faces, put your bodies on the line. That's a quote from some of these lawmakers and activists. And they end up creating a situation in which someone like Alex Preddy ends up getting killed. Then they use that death to create more outrage that then just creates that vicious circle to get more people to then go out and interfere with ICE and put their bodies on the line, and then lead to this next confrontation that ends up taking someone's life. And it just makes folks a whole bunch of money. It gets people more follows on social media, and it gets them more favorable press coverage. And we see this happening over and over and over again. It's not going to stop, but it's certainly not growing at the same level that the BLM movement grew. And that's obviously a good thing, because it means at least some of the American voters, the average person who's looking at this, are saying, okay, we want sensible immigration reform. We want some semblance of immigration law being enforced. And they're not falling for the far left position that underlines everything that they're doing here. They are against, on the radical left, all enforcement of immigration laws. That is a radical position that is not shared by the vast majority of this country. And I think that explains why we're not seeing this movement grow at the same level as we saw during the BLM movement.
Well, so Jason, you've seen this unfold over a pretty long period of time in Seattle. They've had Antifa type stuff for ages. They had the explosion of homelessness there. It felt like Seattle was in a really severe crisis about 5 years ago. I remember Seattle is dying and all of that. And it seems to me, obviously it's still a blue city. Obviously it still has a lot of problems, but it does seem to have pulled back from the, autonomous zone level crisis they were in. Are there any lessons from that for how the whole country might regard this national Antifa as how do you defeat this process that they enact on us to use the kind of weaponized weakness against the system?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, because had we had this conversation a few months ago, my answer would have been a little bit more clear, as it's going to be, because unfortunately the voters just took a giant step backwards, or took a mile backwards, because after all that nonsense with the autonomous zone, the voters put in place someone who is at least perceived to be a little bit more moderate. Now, I didn't view our last mayor as moderate, but he was booted out of office for a socialist, an open socialist, who has already instituted a bunch of plans that's sending us back in the wrong direction. So I don't know if Seattle voters learned their lesson. Now, if you look back and you're just kind of dweeby like me, and you look at the general, algorithm of voters here, is the Seattle base of radicals. They push us very, very, very far to the left. Then the voters say, okay, let's dial it back a notch. Then you see some results, but then they go and say, okay, well, now that we saw some course correction, let's go back in the crazy direction. And so that's where we're at right now. We're headed back in that crazy direction. And, this whole idea of the protesters and how organized they are. Like yesterday, there was yet another march in downtown Seattle, ruining all the traffic again. And they were doing this because they wanted to speak in solidarity with what's going on in Minneapolis. Again, it's the same people who show up every single time who are engaged in this, and they're allowed to do whatever it is they want to do because they're doing it for some quote unquote righteous position. And that's how it's going to unfold. I imagine there's going to be another one today and another one tomorrow, and it's going to be the same people showing up. So I don't know if we've actually truly learned a lesson, because we never seem to learn our lesson for more than 4 years at a time.
Yeah, and you're talking Katie Wilson. She's a real peach, by the way. And you guys are going to have a massive problem with Somali fraud rings as well in the state of Washington. They are rampant there. Jonathan Cho, who's with TPUSA Frontlines, has been doing investigations on that. This is an emerging story that you guys are going to have to confront. I'm worried that if we don't squash this right now, Jason, with a massive show of force, which seems like we're going in the opposite direction, we're going to have an even tougher problem in cities like Seattle, Portland, Los Angeles, Chicago, come the spring and summer months when the weather's better. So are you worried about seeing that as well? I mean, because you could let this stuff peter out and then it flares up again, peter out, flares up again, or you could squash it definitively. And I don't like seeing guys like Bovino be left out on to take the rap for everybody here. I want to see us squash this.
Yeah. he should not take the rap. However, I do think it's reasonable to say, or a criticism is that I don't think he handled this over the weekend particularly well. And I think the president is trying to clean that all up. The president has been really good about putting competent people in positions of power and just sort of letting them take the lead, and he'll come in when he needs to. And he obviously needed to. Immediately calling Alex Preddy a domestic terrorist was a unwise decision. It was not going to play in the context of even the video that we had at the time, to just merely jump to that quickly, knowing that the left-wing media is never, ever, ever going to be sympathetic to any messaging coming from ICE or coming from CBP or from this administration, just seemed like an unforced error. I think the president is making the right move and putting Tom Homan in charge for now. I don't think Bovino, again, to your point, he shouldn't be just thrown under the bus for any of this. Neither should we do that to Christie, no. However, I don't think that they handled the messaging well in this case. And it seemed to be put out there in a way that I completely understand, right? Wanting to immediately back your staff, whether, again, it's Border Patrol, ICE, or any law enforcement, makes sense, because the context has been, no matter what it is they do, they're going to be thrown under the bus by left-wing media. They're going to be relentlessly attacked. And so the natural instinct is to protect them. But the way you protect them does matter. And the initial messaging went a little bit too far. They did it without the evidence on their side. And look, there were conservatives who called out some of the messaging around one's right to bear arms and have a concealed carry. You know, it's obviously not illegal in Minnesota to have concealed carry while going into a protest. It doesn't mean that what he did was wise. It very clearly wasn't. And had they focused on that, I think they would have won that messaging, or at least had a little bit more of an upper hand.
No, and I agree with you. I think the Renee Good case is a clear-cut self-defense case, right? The Preddy case is a little bit different. If you were omniscient, omnipotent, you would probably, looking back, say you didn't have to fire. All right. And the messaging after, I would agree, was not helpful based on the video evidence that we had. So we'll get more with Jason Rantz when we get back. More on the Charlie Kirk Show. Don't go anywhere.
Minnesota's headlines are getting wild. Tim Walz and Ilhan Omar are being accused of massive fraud, and it's so bad, all you can do is laugh at this point. So from Real America's Music, the label that brought you the #1 hit, Anthem of the Free, comes a brand new song from singer-songwriter Natasha Owens, The Somali Waltz. Let's make the music industry mad and run this to #1. Scan the QR code or search The Somali Waltz on iTunes and buy it right now. The Somali Waltz, available everywhere. It's time to gear up. Real America's Voice has an entire lineup of merch made just for you.
We got some Rav fans out here.
We watch you every day.
From mugs that start your morning strong to hoodies, hats, t-shirts, pants, vests, flags, and so much more.
Yeah, I noticed it. I mean, that caught my eye big time.
Every piece lets you wear your pride loud and clear. This isn't just merch, it's a movement. When you shop Rav, you're showing the world you're proud to be part of the Real America's Voice family.
God bless Real America's Voice.
So don't wait. Scan the QR code right now or visit realamericasvoice.launchcart.store to shop today.
Thank you, Real America's Voice, for doing true journalism.
Stand tall, be bold, be proud. Represent your voice with Real America's Voice.
It's good to have a real news network out there, so I'm a big fan.
Use code RAVSWAG10 for 10% off.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Hello, all you Ravagers. I'm Billy Howell, your old buddy Carefree Largo from the chat, and I'm thrilled to be part of the Rav family. When I want to be heard, I use my Real America's Voice.
I'm Patriot Mermaid, and I'm from West Haven, Connecticut. When the mainstream media wasn't giving us the truth, I went and looked for the truth and found it on Real America's Voice. Come and join us. Come on.
This is Giselle Chaffin. I'm from North Carolina. I'd like to let you know that RAV News is the best news. Number one news. Truth seekers seek to find the truth. It'll set you free.
Back to the Charlie Kirk Show. I want to tell you guys about our friends over at YREFI, YREFY.com. Amazing patriots. They support the mission of Turning Point. They support the mission of this show. You got to get behind them because they are behind you. When people call in, they're often in dire straits. It's a terrible situation. They have private student loan debt that they cannot make the minimum payments for. So if that is you, you need to call YREFI, YREFY.com, or call them 888-YREFI34. 888-YREFI34. So private student loan is distinct from federal student loans. And the problem with private student loans is a lot of people won't touch them if you have a problem with them. If you cannot make your monthly payment, they will work with you. They will custom tailor a solution that you can pay every month. That's the key. Every month they're going to help you so that your expenses and your income match so that you can make your minimum monthly payment, and they'll even let you skip a payment every 6 months up to 12 times without penalty. They don't care what your credit score is. They will guarantee interest rates below 6%, ensuring affordability, and their 100% U.S.-based support team is right here to help you out. So if you find yourself in a terrible situation, know that there is friends that can help you, that care about you, that actually have a heart, that aren't going to just, treat you like some schmo that they don't care about. So you can call them. They will work with you directly, come up with a solution. These people are amazing, unsung heroes at YREFI, and I really appreciate getting to know them more. YREFI.com, 888-YREFI34. Check them out. May not be available in all 50 states, but if it is, please check it out. All right, so we got to talk about some of the lib freak out. Jason, you live in a very liberal city, Seattle. I don't know why you're still up in Seattle, by the way, but God bless you for braving up there. I went to University of Washington. I appreciate Seattle. Very beautiful city, very crazy city. So these people are crazy. They are dangerous people. These are provocateurs, right? They are agitators. They are communists often. 302, this is an Antifa member. Get your reaction on the other side.
Show up ready to go. Okay, I'm not talking about peaceful protests anymore. We're not talking about having polite conversations anymore. Sorry, but welcome to America 2026, where Second Amendment is the only thing that's going to keep you protected from literal Nazi gunmen that are killing innocent people in the street with impunity. This is not a joke. There's nothing fun to chant about it. Get your guns and stop these people.
That's probably your neighbor, Jason. What are we supposed to do with this? This is radical stuff.
What we're supposed to do with it is call it out and ensure that this kind of messaging isn't normalized. And that's been the reality, I think, for the last several years, is that kind of messaging was completely normalized, where you've got these sad people, lonely people, dangerous people who have convinced themselves that they're actual heroes, that they're freedom fighters. And if not for their violence and activism, we would be headed towards a fascist country. They believe we're already in that space. And that's the sad part. And that's why so many people, yourself included, myself included, we've talked about this for the last several years, of when you've got radical leftists who are in positions of power, who are out there as recently as yesterday and over the weekend talking about how, they're fighting Nazis, the Gestapo, they're fighting Adolf Hitler incarnate. We know that that's incredibly dangerous. It's not just hyperbole. And they know it's not just hyperbole, and that it's inspiring their base to commit these kinds of violent acts, or at least threaten them. And, the attention has to be on unnormalizing and stigmatizing, again, this kind of language. The reality is there's always going to be crazy people out there. And people get inspired by all sorts of things. The question is whether or not the messaging inspiring some of these people are delivered in good faith or not. And when you've got Anne Frank references by Tim Walz, that's not delivered in good faith. When you've got Gavin Newsom out there, it's not delivered in good faith. It's intended to create this kind of violence and, at least at a bare minimum, this kind of violent rhetoric. And they believe that they benefit from it because they keep getting rewarded by left-wing press for these kinds of statements. And, the good news is, that individual that you just played, his Venmo was taken down. I believe his Instagram has been taken down. He now says he's on the run, trying to now flip this into him being some kind of victim. He's not the victim. He is the bad guy in this story.
That's right. Speaking of bad guys and not normalizing bad behavior, you are in Seattle, so I have to ask you about the Super Bowl. Bad Bunny will dress to impress at the Super Bowl, but won't wear a dress. So this is new. This is breaking.
No dress.
Breaking, no dress. Jason. So
this is cowardice. He's just backing down.
He blinked. So give us your
I'm
perspective.
disappointed. He should be wearing a dress or he should be performing. If you're going to go all in, you might as well just go, I want it all in Spanish and I want it in a dress.
Yeah, and so Bad Bunny, he did not include U.S. And concert tours for fear in his tour. So he didn't include U.S. tour stops in his tour because of fear of ICE raids. And, now we're hearing Super Bowl 2026, ICE agents to conduct enforcement as Trump boycotts the game. There's a lot of layers here to this Super Bowl. You are a Seattle resident. Give us your POV on this Super Bowl and in the much discussed halftime show.
Yeah, I will say this season has felt a little bit different, that we've kind of gotten away from a lot of the wokeness. There's no doubt it's become less woke as a league. I enjoy watching hometown teams in whether it's a Super Bowl or a World Series, fingers crossed, next year. So I'm not going to boycott something that I might actually enjoy because of a bunch of lunatics. I don't particularly care about the halftime show. I didn't really know who Bad Bunny was when he became all controversial. I kind of heard of him, but not really followed anything. I will do what I normally do during the halftime, which is just not watch. I focus on the game. And, to the extent that anyone enjoys the Super Bowl, watch the Super Bowl if that's what you enjoy. Do not allow woke skulls.
I have to interject here, Jason. We do have a All-American halftime show that we would gladly welcome you to watch. It'll be all over X, all over YouTube, all over Rumble. So there it is, the All-American halftime show. We do not say the other word in that sentence for fear of legal reprisal. But 2/8/25 All-American halftime show. We're gonna have more details on that next week, so please do stay tuned. But I think this is a really interesting touch point, actually, just as a culture, because we have a guy that seems to not really like America performing at the biggest stage that we have, and that's a really unfortunate reality. Go ahead, Jason.
It is. I just don't want to cede that kind of power to these people to take away something that other people enjoy. It's the same thing. I don't go out of my way to support people who don't support this country, but I also don't allow them to ruin something for me. And the Super Bowl is not about the halftime show. And to your point, there's some counter programming that's way better to consume for that 15, 20 minutes. And that's what people should do. But I'm not going to say I'm going to boycott an entire league or a championship game because of some people on the radical left demanding it. If we cede over football or baseball or any sports to the left, then we're going to run out of things to enjoy.
Seattle Red, check it out. Jason Rantz, thank you so much. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
Followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid, There's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky. When I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience anytime. So just go to angel.com/Rav and join there.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening?
Because of the Real Voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that
Back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. Board Czar Tom Homan is spending the day in Minneapolis meeting with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. President Trump sent him there after his conversation with the governor and mayor on Monday. Homan is being dispatched to discuss ways to move the Twin Cities closer to restoring law and order. Despite clashes between state and local officials and the feds, President Trump says his ICE deployment in Minneapolis is cutting crime.
It's down in Minneapolis, and it's down very much because of the fact that we're there. So we can't lose sight of the fact that we have to take murderers and drug lords and people from mental institutions that were dumped into our country through open borders of the Democrats, of Biden, and we're doing a great job.
Tom Homan is in Minneapolis following Saturday's deadly shooting there in the Twin Cities at the hands of an ICE officer. And while Homan is in Minnesota, President Trump preparing to rally voters in Iowa. He's set to speak in the Des Moines area this afternoon. The White House says today's trip will kick off weekly travel by the president ahead of this year's midterms. 47 will deliver remarks about energy, the economy, and affordability during his visit to the Des Moines area. President Trump, no stranger to Iowa, by the way. He spent a good bit of time campaigning there and most recently visited the state in July to kick off the America 250 celebration. Now to the latest on the winter storm that has much of the country frozen like Elsa, Anna, and Olaf. The deep freeze is forecast to continue throughout this week as the Northeast continues to dig out from underneath even more snow following Monday's snowfall there. Meantime, at least 30 people have been reported dead as a result of the deadly cold temperatures and the conditions there. The rising death toll includes 2 people who were run over by snowplows in Massachusetts and a couple of teenagers who died in sledding accidents in Arkansas as well as Texas. We'll, of course, continue to monitor this for you. You can also go to our sister station, Weather Nation, log on to their website to get up-to-the-moment updates on the weather in your community. That's going to do it for us here on Real America's Voice. We appreciate you being here with us.
the truth no one else has the guts to say. The Charlie Kirk Show.
All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Alex Marlow is going to be joining us in just 1 minute. I'm going to first tell you about our new partners over at Strong Cell. They're new, but they're also old. So if you've listened to this show for any matter of time, you've heard about Strong Cell. It was one of Charlie's favorite supplements, an amazing, amazing product. I take it personally. And what it does is it delivers something called NADH as a proprietary delivery mechanism for it. NADH is the power source for every cell in your body. That's why they call it Strong Cell. So if you have brain fog, fatigue, if you have chronic illness, you want to try this, because it very well could help you out. It's an amazing, amazing breakthrough enzyme supplement. It's kind of like this new wave of supplements that are happening. You can try completely risk-free. So that's the key. You can try it, see if it fixes your issue. I think it probably will. So go visit strongcell.com, strongcell.com today. 90-day money-back guarantee. So completely risk-free to try. Use the promo code Charlie. So this is key. Strongcell.com. Use promo code Charlie for 20% off your order. That's strongcell.com. And don't forget to use our special promo code Charlie at checkout. Love NADH. It's a breakthrough. You got to check it out. Total breakthrough. Alex Marlow, editor-in-chief of Breitbart, host of the Alex Marlow Show. And you were just live an hour ago, so everybody should check that out. Get it, tape delayed, watch our show live, then go check out Alex's. Welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show, Alex. Good to see you.
We got the most popular slot, all of us do, because we all want to walk in Rush's shoes and then Dennis's shoes and then Charlie's shoes. So everyone wants to be on at noon Eastern. But yeah, well, you guys have been sounding amazing. I've been listening. You guys are doing a terrific job, and I'm really proud of both of you guys. So keep up the great work, please.
Thank you. We our humble offering, our meager offering here. But listen, we got to keep the mission moving forward, and we know that's what Charlie would want us to do. And you sometimes record out of Dennis's studio in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I'm in the chair that was once occupied by our good friend Dennis Prager, who is with us and is brilliant as ever, but did suffer a catastrophic paralysis in an accident just over a year ago. And so luckily he's creating a lot of great content still, and I think we'll only create more. But I don't know if he'll be using this studio anymore. Then that's where I'm broadcasting live every day at noon for an hour, but it's on tape delay podcast feed. So by all means, there's plenty of time to catch both shows.
That's right. Get it tape delayed on that. I have to do that because we have to rep our own.
Of course, absolutely. I understand.
And I had the honor of joining you. I believe that's coming out in a few days. So that was great.
Yes, in a couple of days. So probably a Thursday or Friday drop. Andrew and I spent about an hour together. I got to tell you, both of us got misty a couple of times. We go back a long ways, and people who are listening to the show know that I went back a very long way with Charlie back when he was still a high schooler, sending me a tip at Breitbart News, which we requested that he write up himself. The thing was lightning in a bottle. He was all over Fox. He was all over talk radio. And that was one of several, I would say, little roles I played in Charlie's rise that I'm so proud of and I'll be talking about forever.
Yeah, I mean, it's really true. And actually, that you're kind of getting to where my first question was going to start. And that is, we don't probably have President Trump without Breitbart News. We don't have President Trump without Andrew Breitbart. I mean, you could go back even further. You are an expert at analyzing the current political moment. There is a lot of back and forth about all of the illegals going home, worse first, this debate, how to message, the tactics. You got Homan going up there, Bovino's out. Make sense of it for us, Alex. Make sense of this political moment and what the admin needs to do.
Yeah, I think Trump's actually been kind of spot on this, which is great. And he has a lot of proxies, but his instincts are kind of the best. And I think that if any of you watched the Zapruder film, which I'm sure everyone has and broken it down, I don't know if it was a good shoot or not. There's smart people in my life who say it was. There's some smart people in my life who say it wasn't. And that's not really the point here. The point here is to clarify that the goal is to try to tone down the interplay that's taking place between the institutional, well-funded, organized left agitators and activists. They're not protesters. There's no protest going on, and you don't show up at a law enforcement operation armed with multiple magazines. If you're just protesting, you're doing this because you're trying to cause problems. And that's exactly what happened. And getting back on that messaging, but still understanding that we don't really know if this was a legal shooting or a just shooting, and we got to let all that work out. And what we got to do is move on as fast as we can to things we want to talk about, which is deportations, which is wildly popular with Americans, and cracking down on illegal immigrant and immigrant fraud that's happening in this country. We just got to pivot back there as fast as humanly possible. I trust Donald Trump to do that. And I'll tell you who else I trust, Tom Homan. It's not just that Bovino's getting moved off and Noam's getting moved off. That's a very small part of it. It's Tom Homan is the man. He was put on earth for these exact moments, and putting him in charge is exactly the right move.
Completely agree. I believe that Tom Homan is the perfect man for the job. And Blake, you made this point earlier. Yeah. Messaging discipline, there's nobody better than Tom Homan.
Messaging discipline, good experience, and it's a fine thing to navigate because they are in that position where you do need to change what the narrative is around it. But you can't retreat, you can't concede, you can't say they won. You certainly can't make it look like they won. And I think it's actually paying dividends that we have multiple sort of famous immigration hawks within DHS, such that you can swap out personnel without making it look like a total teardown.
Yeah, well, this is interesting. I'm getting some breaking news here. Pima County, Arizona, shooting incident occurred this morning near milepost 15 on Aravaca Road. Border Patrol officers are on the scene. We saw some new activity out of Arizona yesterday, actually. You could throw this B-roll up, 334. ICE has been on the scene here in Phoenix, Arizona, Maricopa County, and you're seeing the semblance, I think the beginning pieces of what we've seen in Minneapolis, where they're organized. There's obviously some group chats. They're monitoring these unmarked vehicles, these DHS cars, and they're attacking them. They're going after them to harass, and these young women apparently took a selfie with some ICE officers, apparently in support, and they instantly got harassed and chased by activists. So this is my whole point with this what we're seeing in Minneapolis. We cannot be perceived to be weak. Now, if Trump can strike a deal, I'm with you. I trust Trump's instincts here. I think the pivot can be fine. I think some of the messaging was mishandled. I agree if these, if they were omnipotent in this interaction with Preddy, they probably wouldn't have done what they did. They probably wouldn't have taken the shot. But you're completely right. It's beside the point. This gentleman should not have been impeding ICE officers. And by the way, again, we made the point earlier, this was not a protest. This was him trying to impede law enforcement. The protest happened after the shooting. Okay, so he was obviously up to no good. And apparently there's some other video that's coming out right now, Alex, that shows that he had an interaction with ICE about a week before. He's claiming that he was tackled by ICE officers or whatever. I don't care. Get the heck out of the way. Let law enforcement do their job. And for the love of God, the Trump administration cannot look weak on this. And I don't think that's what's going to happen here, but they cannot look weak.
Are you guys afraid of being shot right now? Are you afraid ICE is going to shoot you? No, why not? Because first of all, you're not a legal alien evading arrest, and you're not a white leftist, well-funded protester who's not really a protester, who's really an activist who's armed, who's showing up to agitate. The problem is that when people like Tim Walz and people like Jacob Frey actually has acknowledged at least that there's Somali fraud going on. He's at least said for whatever reason, then there is some bad stuff happening here, to his credit. But you saw what happens on CNN. You see what happens with Tim Walz said there was no basis for ICE being there. Of course there's a basis. We've all seen the videos. We all know what's happening with aliens in that part of the country. They're stealing taxpayer money. But here's the point here. The most important thing here is that for all of us to understand is that we cannot be perceived as weak because our eye on the ball needs to be that we are going to make America more affordable. We're going to make it safer. And they hate that. And that's really what they're protesting against. It's not even a protest. What they're doing is they're trying to deliberately stop the enforcement of our laws because they know a lawless society is better for them politically. And we've got to be able to explain that to people in an efficient and effective way. And we've got to cut through the noise, which I think we can do, especially when they're running so far to the extreme where they're calling Stephen Miller, the Rick Wilson from the Lincoln Project was saying Stephen Miller needs to be hung. He seriously needs to be hung in public. You had that crazy guy with the pink P-word hat on CNN yesterday who was talking about how they're going to put people in ovens. That level of extremity, we need to use that to our advantage to point out that these people are truly radical and they have no sense of common sense.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. And you've got my favorite guy here, Jimmy Kimmel, giving them air support because that's what he always do. This is from about a week ago, but it plays 3:39.
They're trying out a new slogan. Donald J. Trump is going to kill you. He isn't just killing people overseas. An ICE agent today shot and killed an unarmed 37-year-old woman during an ICE operation in Minneapolis. They're there under the guise of protecting us. I want to see to ICE. Get the out of Minneapolis. Get the out of all of these cities.
And now you've got Stephen Colbert screaming from the top of his lungs. You guys have this up on Breitbart. Colbert screams, F ICE. Kimmel is crying, and Jon Stewart rants about guns after latest federal agent involved shooting. So the air support's coming in. They think they're going to win the hearts and minds here. And I just want everybody to be very clear that this is a tactic. They harass, they get martyrs, so they get some casualties, then they play victim.
The martyring part is really essential because I don't know what was in Alex Preddy's heart, but I know that if he was trying to commit suicide by ICE, he would have not behaved any differently. That's exactly how he behaved, is in a way that was designed so that he would get killed and then he would become a martyr. Now, I don't know. I have no idea if that's what his intention was, but I know that that is a playbook now that can be followed. And now ICE has to be extra careful, and they have an important job to do. They're trying to enforce our immigrations and custom laws. That's all they're there to do. They're not there to do anything else. They probably don't even want to be there. They'd probably rather be at home, but they're there deployed to try to enforce what's clearly immigration violations that's taking place in the area. And so their lives can be made difficult when these media cycles play out the way they have, because what's happened now is this is penetrated in the broader culture. People who are not following shows like this or content like ours, people who are just casual observers of the news, and they hear, wow, I shot a guy, they're cold-blooded, and they don't hear the context. They don't hear any sort of corrections that take place. And that is something where we need to be very conscious. And I think President Trump is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, Blake, I'd love your thoughts on this because, you have been advocating for less, I guess, boisterous, performative tweeting from DHS.
So what you want here is what the base wants is they want proof that it's working. And for a lot of people, like the boisterous stuff, the performative stuff, it's kind of a way of showing like, hey, we're serious about this. We have credibility on this. But I think the base would also just accept the clear, obvious signs that what you're doing is working. In fact, the freakouts of the left are often all the proof you need that this is happening. So you don't necessarily need a big car, like a meme of someone like sobbing as they're like taken away in a helicopter or whatever. As long as the left is freaking out and it's very clear that this is all happening, that you're getting the job done, that's what the base will be satisfied with. It's just like with the border. You don't need infinity memes that the border is closed. The border is closed. Everyone knows it. And that's the victory.
Yeah, it's interesting. I hate this article from the Wall Street Journal, but it says this is backfiring against Republicans. Waltz is happy. And they call the calm strategy the own the libs strategy for DHS. Maybe they have a point there. We'll be right back with Alex Marlin.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
Followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid. There's a whisper in the wind, and a story in the sky, when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now. and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience.
All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. We are joined by Alex Marlowe. I'm just getting details on some breaking news here that Alex Preddy who was shot in Minneapolis and died this past weekend. Had an earlier incident. He stopped his car after observing ICE agents chasing what he described as a family on foot, began shouting, blowing his whistle. And then he later told the same sources that 5 agents tackled him and one leaned on his back, appearing to break his rib. This is according to sources. So a week before he was ultimately killed, he was out there cosplaying as a vigilante here. So broke rib in confrontation with federal agents a week before death, sources say. So that's an interesting wrinkle. He was apparently known to law enforcement in Minneapolis. So fascinating detail. I don't know what to necessarily make of that, but obviously this was a person that was devoting his life and his time to confronting law enforcement, to stopping ICE. The definition of an anti-ICE organizer. Mm-hmm. So there's that. I want to take our attention in a slightly different direction, Alex. This is Jennifer Welch, who's now made a name for herself as being basically the most vile person that you see on social media. She's attacking white evangelical Christianity in this clip. We'll play it, Alex, and get your take on the other side. 3:33.
Evangelical Christianity is a cancer. These are the worst of our country. They use their religion in 2 ways, as a weapon and as a shield. They weaponize it whenever they want to and say, we're on the moral high ground. You're a lesbian. You deserve to die. You're a lesbian. The cops shouldn't have revived you. Oh, your parents are Mexicans and they brought you over here. Yeah, you should go to jail and eat worm food. And then when you call them out on it, oh my God, they're after the Christians. How dare they? How dare they? We're so oppressed. White Christians are so oppressed in this country. And it should come as no surprise to anyone that of this cult that I'm talking about, white evangelicals, I think over 80% went and voted triple trumped.
This person is basically, if you read about like the Rwanda genocide, there's a thing called Hutu Radio. So it was the Hutus and Tutsis, and Hutu Radio is basically just this radio station that broadcasts constant anti-Tutsi propaganda that, called them cockroaches, things like that. And this woman just feels like that for, white evangelical Christian America. Like, a lot of that is just insane lies, and she does it nonstop all the time. Like, she's the final boss of awfuls, as it were. Yeah. Very, very dark woman. And oh man, we're probably going to be stuck with her a long time, but she's a lunatic, like a very hateful lunatic. And like, you can just tell, like, this woman would be like having that incredibly sinister grin of hers as she funnels you into a gas chamber or whatever.
She's good at the otherizing language. Alex, your reaction?
Yeah, I love the content. I mean, it is pure evil. It just also false. I mean, Christians tend to be way more charitable. They spend way more time volunteering. I can't tell you how all the horrible stuff said about Christians is some of them, I think, do badly, but they at least mean well. And a lot of them, as a percentage, spend a lot more of their time doing productive things for our society. And I feel like as we've gotten more secular, we've certainly gotten less happy. We have more crime. We have less optimism. So I think we would all benefit from a more Christian revival approach to society. That's my take. Obviously, she disagrees, but I'm just very pro her saying this stuff publicly, because if people want to hold up this person who is so unappealing, is so unconvincing, is so angry and so petty as a champion of their values, this makes me very positive. This is the thing, is that when you look at their slate of spokespeople right now, the Tampoon Timmy Walls, I mean, these people are so unlikable. They're so uncharismatic. They're so full of baloney that I think that it is just a remarkable opportunity for the rest of us, especially happy warriors in the Christian faith in particular, to stand up and say, we're not going to tolerate any of this and we're going to beat it.
You know what struck me with that clip is you could insert LGBTQ, you could insert Black America, you could insert any of their preferred victim groups, their marginalized groups, their special interest groups, and that would be 100% true of basically any leftist flavor of the week. And so it just strikes me as this massive projection. And to your point, Christians are the best of this country. Yeah, we're not perfect. Yeah, we make mistakes. But you try having an America without Christianity, and it will fail. The country that she's enjoying, the country that she's blessed to be in, whether she acknowledges it or not, is a blessing because it is good. And why is it good? Is because it's Christian roots. This is something Charlie talked about so much. So much. That is what makes America great, actually, is how great its people are.
To look at this at a literal point where she says that evangelical Christianity is a cancer and these are the worst people in the country. Well, they're the worst because they're threatening to her because we tend to vote conservative. And that's the main thing to understand is that we people of faith believe that God is above all else. God, family, and then maybe politics is third for us. Maybe it's fourth behind career, stuff like that. But for the left right now, it's politics above all else. They believe that politics is their guiding principle and the ends justify the means in order for them to achieve political victory. And just know that if there's a group of people who are God-fearing, who pay their taxes, who are not criminals, who do a lot of volunteer work or give a lot to charity, they do not care if you don't support their guy politically. If you support the opposite side, the Donald Trump side, then you are inherently bad and wrong. And it's very important to understand that because there's not a lot of a place where we can agree. There's a huge amount of daylight between the two positions in this country, and that's relatively new where there's such a big gulf.
I totally agree. We actually talked about this in our conversation, Alex, and this is the Charlie Kirk show, so we're going to play a clip of Charlie talking about just this, 3:45.
John Adams famously said the Constitution was only written for a moral and religious people. It was wholly inadequate for the people of any other. The body politic of America was so Christian and was so Protestant that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population.
I'll never forget watching that live. I looked at the team. There's a longer clip that I'd love to play. We just don't have enough time. But I think you're right, Alex. This is a threat to her way of life. Christianity is a threat to her cult. The left really is a cult. It's an ideological cult. And she knows that we're a threat. And we should become a bigger threat and organize even in greater measure. Alex, final 30 seconds to you.
Yeah, I'm optimistic that with the message of Charlie, with what you guys are carrying forward, what I'm trying to do, and so many others like us, that this will just fuel people to get focused. You play this clip to someone who's not a hardcore leftist, and say, this woman is completely insane. I don't want anything to do with anything she's associated with. So that's why I'm going to keep playing clips like this myself.
Amen. Alex Marlow, host of the Alex Marlow Show, editor-in-chief of Breitbart and Breaking the Law, is also out. So check out that book. Your Breaking series is really important, Alex. Charlie was a big believer in it. Thank you for making the time, my friend. We'll see you soon.
You guys stick with it. You guys are doing a great job.
Awesome. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Welcome to Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Your quick look at the powerful stories of faith and freedom, inspiring audiences across the nation. Angel Studios presents.
I'm Bo Davidson with this Real America's Voice, Real Minute. Most people know the biblical story of David, the shepherd boy who fought Goliath and became king. Well, Angel Studios has created a new animated film called David that tells the story of Israel's greatest king.
Followed when I'm looking for the way, when I'm searching for the answer, in the moments I'm afraid. There's a whisper in the wind and a story in the sky, when I'm looking for a lantern to illuminate the night. If you want the secret of freedom and feeling alive, you gotta follow the light. Follow the light.
For those who love great animated classics like The Lion King and Prince of Egypt, David is an awe-inspiring animated musical that depicts David as a spirited boy who fought lions, giants, and even betrayal, depicting how one boy's faith could lead him to be king of Israel. David will be released in theaters just in time for Christmas on December 19th, but your family can get a head start by watching the prequel to the film, Young David, which is streaming exclusively right now on Angel. It's perfect for the entire family and has memorable music. So once you join the Angel Guild, you can start watching Young David right now and prepare the fam for the David film in theaters in December. And by joining the Guild, you'll guarantee 2 free tickets to see it. And it's a great value. Let's be honest, going to the movies isn't all that cheap. But if you're a member of the Angel Guild, not only do you get those 2 free tickets to David, but you'll now have access to every single film or TV series on Angel at your convenience.
Now is the moment to put your brand in front of an engaged, loyal audience through Real America's Voice. When you advertise on Real America's Voice, you're not just running an ad, you're partnering with trusted voices like Steve Bannon, Charlie Kirk, and other influential hosts. Backed by millions of monthly listeners.
What's happening? Because of a real voice, man. I watch it all the time.
Real America's Voice rocks.
Real America's Voice gives sponsors the chance to put their product front and center, displayed on screen and highlighted by our anchors during exclusive segments and live events.
Head to freetrumpknife.com.
This means your brand becomes part of the conversation as it happens.
Secure your spot before it's too late.
Join us today and make your brand part of the news conversation that America's viewers trust. Real America's Voice, where your message is seen, heard, and remembered.